And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game called Chrono, Corsairs. Now, in this game, you're a group of pirates who are landing on an island trying to get treasure. But there's some sort of chrono time storm that keeps resetting every day. It's Groundhog Day meets a bunch of pirates running around getting treasure. What's an interesting theme for a game? Like a really interesting theme for a game. And that's what you're doing in this game. You're going to be moving your pirates around the board trying to get treasure, but each day it resets. Here's how it plays. Each player has a board where they're going to put their extra pirates on it, and you'll have a whole pile of pirates that you start with here. You also will start with 2 of your officers. You have 2 officers here, and then you'll start with a bunch of pirates here, and you're going to be trying to move these onto the island. And each round of this game is a day, and the day has 4 different parts on the time track. You also have a vortex that will be moving, and sometimes it will move more depending on what cards are played, and when it reaches the end, that's going to trigger the final round. And what players are trying to do is they're trying to get points. Find these treasures which are worth points. And so each day you're going to be moving the different people that you have. There's going to be an event that happens where you will draw a card here, and it will have some sort of event that happens based on the symbol that the vortex track is on. So the event is going to be different, and on the last turn usually there will be some crazy event that may or may not happen. So after you reveal that, players are going to be drawing cards from these decks. And the number of cards that you draw from each deck is going to be where you have these cubes on here as you outfit your ship. These plans are known as unstable and stable plans, and you're going to pick one of the cards you drew. It doesn't matter how many cards you draw, you're going to pick one, and then you're going to essentially flip it and put it on one of these spots on your board. So you're going to pick that, and if anybody picks an unstable plan, then the vortex track is going to be moving one. So that's a way that the game is going to progress depending on if people pick these. Then after everyone has done that, starting with the person whose flag is the highest on the board, up here in the corner, they're going to go first, and you're just going to run through your program. You have 4 built-in things on the spot that says move an officer to an adjacent beach, move an officer to an adjacent volcano, move an officer to an adjacent mysterious cave, move one of your officers to an adjacent beach, then move one of your officers to an adjacent jungle. So let's take a look here. So I'm an orange player, and it says move one of my officers to an adjacent beach. So when I move an officer to an adjacent beach, I can take as many people with me, including another officer, because officers are how you move the people around, but I'll leave them there. Then the next one here says move one of your officers to an adjacent beach. So I'm going to do that and move them here. That's another beach. And then it says, and then move one of your officers to an adjacent jungle. So I'll move here, but leaving one of my guys behind on the beach. Then the next one says move an officer to an adjacent volcano. So I'm going to move my officer here to this volcano. Then move one of your guys to a mysterious cave. And I can't, well, yeah, I'll move in here to the mysterious cave in the middle. And so there's different spots you can move them to. Sometimes you won't be able to take an action. If you don't take the action, you simply get a coin from the supply instead. Now, after everyone has taken their actions, then you're going to find treasure. Each of these spots on the board, which is set up randomly at the beginning of the game, is going to give rewards. So this one gives a rewards of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place, although it's possible that only 1st place will get them. So 1st place will get wherever the vortex track is at this point. So 1st place will get this reward at the beginning of the game, but as time goes by, 1st place would get this, then 2nd place would get this, then eventually 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, etc. So you see here it gives you points, here it gives you money. Sometimes they let you draw some cards, upgrade cards. These are cards that you'll be able to play as the game goes by, but if you don't play them, you will get these points at the end of the game. And these will just give you cards that you can play that will do things. I can swap the position of 2 plans on my board, move an officer to an adjacent beach, pick somewhere I have an officer, then push all enemy pirates in that region into a single adjacent region. In fact, many things can cause pirates to get killed. These guys might move in here and kill 2 people, but they just go back here to the beginning because due to the time warp, they come back to life. After everyone has found their treasure, then whoever has the lowest amounts of treasure and coins will go first on the flag thing up here. And then players are going to be able to buy stuff. You can buy more sailors that you'll be able to put out on the board for 2 coins each. I can buy a point for 3. I can buy one of these cool cards for 5. I can switch the positions of cards for 1. I can move the cube up here to draw more cards each turn. And then we start the next round. At the end of the game, we're going to count up the points that we've gotten throughout the course of the game. And you also get a point for every 2 gold that you have as the game goes by. And artifact cards that you did not use, like I said, are worth points. Most points is the winner. The game has a pretty good look to it. I mean, these are all puzzle pieces that fit there. It'd be nice maybe if they locked in the board a bit, but they don't. I'm moving them around right now, but that's not that big of a deal. The colors are good colors. It's pretty easy to tell the captains or the officers apart because of their hats. Although when you're looking top down, you might not know where they are. Knowing what each region is a little trickier. It's the symbol in the top corner, but even though this is a volcano, if there's people on it, it doesn't look like a volcano. The thing here, I'm surprised they didn't make like the whole area look like that. I guess they wanted it to have sort of they wanted the pieces to connect to each other and form like a very jungly-esque looking thing. There's a lot of symbols in the game. There's a glossary in the back. We didn't find any of them to be too difficult, although there are times where you have to do things like kill one of your own crew or whatever when you play these certain cards. And so that's like, oh, that's my guy that I'm getting rid of. But for the most part, these tiles are okay. There's also, I didn't mention during the overview, but there's these little tokens here. The first time you go in, you turn it over and it will happen to you. And then anytime someone ends their turn in it, as long as it's that time of day, that one will happen to you. That's slightly fiddly. I found it to be because, you know, if you move in here at night, so you're like, okay, at night I move in there. It's one more thing to check on the board. I don't know. It works, I guess. Either way, the components for the game are fine. It's Tasty Minstrel. I always expect high quality from them. So the game is thematically wise. I love the theme. Hey, you go in and then everything resets. The problem is the theme doesn't really hold that much water. Essentially, this is a worker game where you're trying to have the most workers in different areas. You're fighting for these different spots on the board, trying to have them. But problematically, you know, and it resets fine, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't feel the theme. It's just basically a way to justify the fact that each turn you move them out again. I mean, it does make sense, but then at the same time, why do you keep the treasures you found each day? You get to keep them, so how did that happen? And does a treasure respawn, or these duplicate treasures? It's best not to worry too much about the theme. Let's look at the game itself. It is a area control game where you're moving people out. So one thing that I think is pretty important here, when you build the initial island, if you build it, so there's 3 spots you can come on the board off the water. If you build it so that 2 of those 3 spots are the same, or there's a lot of the same stuff together, it really can hamper the game. The game is a little bit more open depending on that opening, and it's random. So I found it to be a little odd that there was this random, and sometimes a random game doesn't play as well as another random game, in my opinion. But it is essentially move, and so you're using kind of this robo-rally, and you sit there and you put a card out, and some of the cards, especially the unstable ones, are very take that. There are cards, move one of your officers into an adjacent jungle, then kill up to 2 enemy crew in that space. And there's a lot of these cards where you're killing extra people. Move one of your officers to an adjacent beach and kill up to 2 enemy crew in that space. And there's definitely that take that to the game. And some people are going to like that or not like it. I overall thought the game was interesting. I don't know that it warrants many repeat plays because it feels like the same thing each time. You have this thing here. The upgrades for your ship are kind of add more pirates or draw more cards. That's it. The artifact cards you get can be wildly helpful or wildly not useful. And when I played the second time, I was like, oh, wow, you know, this is kind of the same thing we're doing again. And yes, the way the board is there, you'll move around. The events are interesting and stuff, but it's a fine game. I just have a hard time recommending a game that you'll have a good time playing once. Maybe you'll enjoy it more, but this one, for me, got a kind of tepid response from the folks I played it with. And even though I thought, yeah, no, I had a good time, it was fun, It's just that with all these amazing games that exist out there, it's hard for this one to find its footing. Yes, it has a really unique and intriguing theme behind it, and it has some interesting ideas, but it also has fiddly things like the different events that go off only 1/4 of the day, and I got to remember what those are. Symbols on the board, which are useful, but also get covered up by these big crowds of pirates that are going to grow as the game goes by. I really think adding more pirates is the easiest and best thing to do. It's better than adding more cards. Having this programming thing like Robo Rally and other games that have programming is going to appeal to some people, but not others, and it never felt like I was able to really program and do really cool things. I just put a card out and said, how do I make this programming fit what I'm trying to do, rather than how can I program to do the best stuff. And the cards are all very samey. Take an officer and move here, or sometimes take these people and spread out. And the game hinges very, very dangerously on that teeter-totter between boredom and a good game. And this is the kind of game that I played. I'm like, wow, this is good. But it's missing that pizzazz. That's something that makes you go, woo, let's do it again. And because of that, that's just not a game I'm going to want to play all the time. But I do applaud them for trying to find a cool theme. Like I said, Tasty Minstrel puts out a solid game production, and I think some people will enjoy it. But I also think it's one we're not going to talk about in 6 months, as many games that happens to. And I find that unfortunate because the theme was cool, but at the end of the day, it's a bunch of mechanisms thrown together, and they don't necessarily, while they provide a good experience, I don't know that it's a repetitively fun one. Dice Tower Judgment, it's an interesting worker movement game.